chair. I don't know what they do, who does it, I don't know what, yeah, it's Uniqlo, it's, everything is political in this house, so much.
As opposed to Haiti, this is really chilly.
Yeah.
I prefer Port-au-Prince.
All right, well,
Yes?
on that temperature note, I want to welcome Ulrika Richardson, who has briefed us virtually. We're delighted to have her in person, who is the resident coordinator and humanitarian coordinator in Haiti, where lots has been happening. So we're happy to have you here to give us an update. Ulrika, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steph. No, I need to. Thank you very much.
It'll hold on. There we go. Perfect. They'll
Okay,
do
it was on already.
Yeah, the engineer will do it. They'll do it.
All right, well, thank you very much. So thank you very much, Steph, for having me today. And it's a real pleasure to be able to see you in person and address you in person as opposed to the virtual interactions that we've had over the past weeks and months. In fact, I'm here in New York for 3 days to meet with UN colleagues and senior leadership and other partners to discuss the situation in Haiti. I just could give you a bit of an update since we last had a contact, which was on the 16th of November. So, as you may have followed, the cholera outbreak continues to be a worry for the country and for us. Cases continue to rise, and you have now 283 people that have died from the illness, and we also have close to 12,000 people that have been hospitalized during this period. So this is since 2nd October. And we have also close to more than 14,000 now suspected cases of cholera throughout the country. And what we are seeing, in fact, is not only the continued increase of cholera cases, but also the spread to the regions. And there is now, in 8 of the 10 departments, there are confirmed cholera cases. And this is a worrying trend for us and for the country. And we continue to provide a response in various ways as the United Nations, as agencies, together with our partners, local partners, international partners, and obviously quite an important leadership from the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Public Health. So when I was here last time, or when we spoke on the 16th of November, we had just launched the appeal, the flash appeal for the humanitarian response, which includes obviously the cholera, but also the response to the increased numbers of hunger. We see 1 in every 2nd Haitian being food insecure, and for the first time, these catastrophic conditions of hunger present in Haiti for the first time, 20,000 people. But so we launched the flash appeal, about $145 million. We have right now received 23.5 million. I'm really grateful for those donors who've responded positively, but it's only 16% of the total amount. In fact, the humanitarian needs continue to increase. We have, in fact, as opposed to last year, we are now preparing the humanitarian response plan for next year. And in fact, the value of that plan is $719 million. So that is a double as of this year. That means it's an indication of the humanitarian needs in Haiti. So it is a worrying situation. You will remember that when we spoke last time, that this Vareux terminal, the country's main fuel terminal, had been opened, freed by the Haitian police. And so we have now fuel in the capital, not so much in the departments. But the insecurity continues to be rampant, and with really chilling reports of human rights violations, and with really worrying levels of violence in general. So and that is happening in a situation where the country is facing social-political instability, as you know, and so this insecurity and the gang domination in the capital is now close to 60% of the entire capital, and they still use, and with very terrifying levels of intensity, sexual violence as a weapon to keep populations, let's say, under control, instill fear, and to punish populations. And it affects women, girls, but also men and boys, because the gangs, they fight over territory. And so that territory is worth both fighting for and defending at all costs. And the cost here is a human cost. And it's enormous for people, what they face on an everyday basis. So the gang violence, but including in particular the sexual violence, really is worrying because of the victims, because it's violence in itself and the violations of people's human rights, and also any type of freedom of movement and living without fear. But it's also really tearing the society apart. It's already a society that is marked by the violence. And so this territorial fight between gangs is also sort of dividing populations. And that means that it's going to be very difficult if we don't address this now, because the society that we will then have in a few months, once hopefully the violence has seceded, then I think it's going to be very difficult in terms of social cohesion and reconciliation. So that's something that we need to work on. So insecurity continues a real worry. Also, the insecurity has led to a massive displacement, internal displacement in Port-au-Prince in particular. We have 155,000 internally displaced. And this is a 77% increase since August this year. And these people, the most vulnerable, again, a lot of families, a lot of women with lots of children, they are in temporary sites, but also hosted in communities. So you have a lot of host families. And this is something that we are currently working with institutions to see how we can address, because it's great to see that warm solidarity that people in Haiti have with each other. And it's, and that's, I think we need to recall that. But it's also, it's still people who share very meager resources. And so this can't continue for a very long time. So so maybe just to say, on a positive note, the schools are being reopened. It's really challenging, and there are 4 million children that are affected by the schools. And many of these children have not followed, let's say, proper school, any type of education since the beginning of COVID. So you can imagine the impact on children in this situation. Now the schools are opened. They have reopened at a level of 53% throughout the country. And most schools have actually opened in the south. So there is a huge disparity also within the country. But the impact on children of this crisis is enormous. So just one final word maybe to say that as the UN, we continue to support. We support the cholera response. We support the Ministry of Education at the opening of schools. We obviously do food distribution and non-food items. We have a logistical challenge, as you can imagine, and a security challenge, but we are able to be present, and we are able to help people. And what we're also trying to do while we're helping people in the immediate crisis, people to basically strengthen their coping mechanisms and saving lives. We are obviously focusing on the most vulnerable, but we also try not to lose focus on the real structural root causes. So we have corruption, we have impunity, we have governance, and all of that needs to really be at the center also of our thinking as we go forward. And we need to see how we can really move with the nexus as we make a response in this immediate term. So see how we can really feed, humanitarian together with that development perspective, and really the social cohesion and the reconciliation that I was talking for. So with that, again, thank you very much for the attention. You play a huge role, and I think it's very important to keep Haiti, there is a lot of hotspots, and we heard it throughout the briefing, and I always follow the briefings that you do. And it's not easy to keep countries on the agenda, and Haiti is a small country, and it's sort of far away from some, closer to others. So I think your role is very important, and thank you for having me. Over.
Edie Letter, Associated Press.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. A couple of questions. The Haitian government has asked the international community for security assistance. There's been a lot of difficulty trying to get this assistance going. How important is it? And in your discussion with UN police officials here today, this past few days, have you heard about any progress? And a second completely different question on hunger. Is what percentage of the Haitian population is considered in, serious threat, and what are they up to on the Fuse Index, which is the famine index, levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Yeah. So so on the let me just So on the international force, yes, there was a request from the current Prime Minister to the Secretary General for the help of the international community to address the humanitarian situation, the insecurity, but also at the time the blockade of the fuel terminal. Since then, there has been intense conversations. There members of the Security Council have discussed this. They're still discussing. They're in particularly focusing on potential leadership, potential composition of such a force, and so far it's still with the Security Council members, and the discussions are still ongoing, and we will see where this leads us. What is very important here is that the gang violence needs to be addressed for people, for a normal Haitian, and the more vulnerable you are, the more poor you are, the more terrible is the situation. But everyone is affected by the violence, and it just puts the country really on a downhill sort of journey. And so that needs to be addressed. And so what the UN is doing in the meantime, while we wait for a decision to be taken by the Security Council members, is to support the national police, and that we're doing together with a lot of bilateral partners as well. So the national police needs to be at the forefront of any type of response, obviously, and they need a lot of support in terms of equipment and training. On the hunger, so I would say that there is probably 49% people in basically in need of food assistance, urgent food assistance, so that's half of the population. You have the IPC5 is present in Haiti, and those are the 20,000 people that live under catastrophic famine-like conditions. So this is the IPC5. So it's the catastrophic conditions, that's how that's being defined. And most of these people are in the capital in Cité Soleil, 19,000. The other part is in the south.
Thank you. Efrain?
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. I have two questions. The first one on the 16% of the humanitarian response being funded so far. What is the justification of donors for this inappropriate response to the situation in a time and age where literally trillions of dollars are floating around the world every day? How do they justify and explain that the meager sum of 145 million is not in comparison with the trillions? That's my first question. And on the sexual violence against women, when a woman is attacked sexually, what are the resources that are available for her there? Where can she go? Who talks to her? What happens when she comes and talks to you?
So thank you very much. So the flash appeal, the 16%, yes, we hope that we hope that that's just the beginning. So we keep hope up that other donors will step forward. The truth is that there is, I think we heard it from the Emergency Response Coordinator, Martin Griffiths, some time ago, that there is a serious underfunding of the humanitarian needs in the world, because also the humanitarian needs are increasing. So I think that there is generally probably less more crisis, and so hence funding needs to be distributed. In Haiti, unfortunately, traditionally, the humanitarian response has been underfunded. It's been traditional, like 30%. We actually saw an increase this year of 40% of our humanitarian response plan. So this is slightly different from the flash appeal. I think it's a matter of, again, more information needs to be out there about Haiti. I am from Sweden, and I know that there's not much information and knowledge about Haiti in Europe, for example. So I think it's also a matter of getting the word out there that there is a humanitarian crisis happening here, and it's urgent. The sexual violence, so it is difficult. You can imagine these, in Cité Soleil, for example, the police is not present. There is no justice system. You have no institutions. So we had, during July, there was reports, and we had testimonies of 52 women having been raped, most of them gang raped, and many of them in front of their children. So we were able to support, I think all of them were asked what they wanted in terms of support. And I think a few of them basically didn't want because they were fear of retaliation, shame, the sort of, unfortunately, the very sort of usual feelings that women have after rape. But the others, they get health care. So, you know, you need to see a medical doctor, some type of medical institution. And there we work with, for example, Médecins Sans Frontières or other institutions to get, GESCIO is a local organization, for example, that specializes also with sort of victims. And then it's psychosocial support. And also they can get access to free legal aid. What is challenging is the economic support that they, you know, because they would need to be let's say, if they offered a job somewhere or be relocated. But we were able to support many of these victims. Much more is needed, and obviously much more is needed to stop the sexual violence. But we really try to be very victim-focused when it comes to these victims. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to China Central TV, and then we'll go online to Jacqueline.
Hi, Ms. Richardson, Dr. Xu with China Central Television. I have several questions, but I think you can answer them briefly. First one, we know that last month, I believe, the Security Council has already passed the resolution to sanction the gangs in Haiti. According to your observation, has this worked or not? And secondly, when the SG called for an international intervention to stabilize the situation, that was in October. And how do you think this is still the case, that Haiti need international intervention? And what is the sentiment for Haitian people, not the government, Haitian people, another international intervention? And the last question, it might be a little bit too far, but if you answer it, I would be very happy, because we know that there were several different interventions of the international security forces in Haiti in the past several decades. How can the UN ensure this time it worked to stabilize the situation there? Thank you.
So on the sanctions, so the sanctions resolution was passed, yes, and that was to establish a UN sanctions regime. The UN sanctions regime is now being established, so we expect that will be up and running in January. The committee is established, and the panel of experts, there are 4 experts. So they are being put together right now as we speak. So that we hope is then will start its work in as of January. In the meantime, there has been bilateral sanctions, particularly from US and from Canada, and I'm sure many of you have followed that. So it's difficult to say now if it has worked or not. So the UN sanctions regime hasn't started yet. What we are seeing is that it's not happening without attention in Haiti. There is attention to this. What is very important for sanctions, you know, in my view, is that it's followed with some judicial process also in Haiti, right? So I think that's something that probably we could think of in the, you know, see how to support that. But right now, we look forward to the start of the work of the UN sanctions regime. On the international intervention, I think I already responded to that question, but maybe what the Haitian people are thinking, well, obviously, difficult to speak on behalf of a whole population, so I don't pretend to do that. But a lot of the sentiment is that while there may be hesitation, you know, of the fact that you can't handle this as Haiti alone, I think that is a normal feeling of any citizen. But there is also a sentiment that, you know, this violence can't continue, and we have to address and we have to stop the violence. And now with the UN's connection with this international force, you know, can we stabilize the force that is happening now? Is if it will happen, and whatever will come is not a UN force, right? So that will be a different. It's a bilateral, a group of bilaterals who will. I think what we realize is that, and I mentioned it, is to not lose track of the long term, the structural root causes, because what we are seeing are symptoms of deep-rooted impunity, corruption, a justice system that doesn't work, a governance, you know, it has to strengthen. We see weakened public institutions in terms of being able to invest properly in healthcare, in education, in social protection. And then, of course, a fragility vis-à-vis natural disasters, you know, all types. So, and particularly, I would say the first, you know, corruption, impunity, and the governance. I think it is so important that we don't lose track of that. And I think with that, I think the likelihood of stability will increase. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go online to Jacqueline Charles, Miami Herald. Jacqueline? Hold on, you're still muted. Hold on. Go ahead, try.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for doing this. Good afternoon. You mentioned the conversations are ongoing, but it seems that since the Maui fuel terminal has been unblocked, that the international community has lost a sense of urgency. We're not seeing any takers. And yet today you've also painted a very grim picture of the reality on the ground. Practically every week we are seeing reports of a massacre, a gang massacre that's happening in some community and increasingly outside of Port-au-Prince. I'm just wondering, you know, how long can the Haitian people wait, and what keeps you up at night? What is your concern about where this can all lead to, how bad it can get?
Yes, I think, yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, that there is the request for that force was done in the name of you know, really humanitarian and helping the country get over this humanitarian crisis. So the discussions that happens in the Security Council, I can't, you know, I can't anticipate or speculate on where they will take us, but and how bad the situation can go. And I think this is the big question because people are suffering, and the violence that people in the capital are being, let's say, confronted with on a daily basis is rather impossible. It can't continue. So I think that there is a sense of urgency, and there are a lot of actors here that share the sense of urgency, but it's also tricky, right? So I think we all realize that. One of the, I think what keeps me up at night and awake at night is obviously the suffering that people around me are facing, the suffering that people are facing on a daily and hourly basis. I think that's horrendous, and what can we do right now and also in the medium term to let's say, to help people? I think that's what I'm worried about.
Thank you. Stefano, and then we'll go to...
Thank you, Stefano Vaccara, Voce di New York. I have to follow up on what was asked you again on the intervention, because it's been now couple of months since the Secretary General asked the Security Council. You saying that the Security Council is discussing maybe the matter, or anyway, taking its time. I hope you can answer, but don't you think the UN as an institution and the Secretary General that can address the Security Council more than once should have now for the next letter maybe, or the next a sense of more urgency and stress the fact that there is an entire city, an entire Port-au-Prince in the hands of these gangs, and so there is no any more time to discuss. Is it just the time to take a decision? And I just have, this is to you again, to you as working for the United Nations. What if this was another place? Was it an entire city somewhere else? Was in the hand of gangs? I mean, it looks like people, you know, the world is forgetting Haiti.
Well, I think that's why your role is so important. You know, help the world not to forget Haiti. I mean, it's I share you. I can understand the frustration, and I see the urgency. This is an issue for the Security Council to decide upon, and I think what we are doing as the UN is keep sharing information about Haiti, being present in Haiti, helping where we can in the immediate, but really making sure that we report on what's going on, and having this relationship also with the media and the press to make sure that information is out there about the urgency of the situation and about the really precarious and severe conditions that people are facing on a daily basis in Haiti.
Ms. Salome, Al Jazeera.
Thank you so much. I'm wondering if you can talk about the challenges for the UN operating in this environment, and I don't know how many UN staff are on the ground there at this stage. But also I'm wondering, given there have been so many past interventions internationally, bilaterally, and given the level of corruption that you yourself have acknowledged in the country, not to mention the ongoing gang control, what kind of assurances do you have to give donor countries that the money is actually getting to where it needs to go?
So your first question was on what obstacles? Yeah. So yeah. So we have most of our staff is still in Haiti, right? And in fact, a lot of our staff are Haitians who work really tirelessly to respond, and we also have many internationals. So a lot of we have security concerns. So obviously, many of the humanitarian workers, we know that humanitarian workers should have access, free access, and not need to have fear for their lives when they carry out humanitarian assistance. We are able to carry out humanitarian assistance. We see that it goes to people in need. I see cholera patients being treated. I see people who are hungry who get food. I see children coming back to school. I see, for example, how we can get clean water to some of the communities. So I see that there is, when we get support from donors, we know that we can deliver that support directly to the population in need. So that's the only reassurance that we can give, obviously. And for our people, the security is a big concern. But we also have logistics concerns because the south and the north are being also blocked by the gangs, the national roads to the south and the north. And that means that when we move our staff or supplies, we have offices in all over the country. So we work from our offices in the north and the south. But when we move supplies, that's an issue. So we use often the UNHAS, the humanitarian transport fleet that is generously supported by donors to move people and goods around, but also barges, so like boats that can then move bigger quantities of supplies. But logistics, it's a big issue, yeah.
So those are military trucks that are transporting them?
No, no military. We don't. There is no military. The UN, we have no military on the ground, so there is no, let's say, peacekeeping mission in Haiti any longer. So we basically do this with our agencies and with local partners.
Ulrike, thank you very much for
Thank you.
taking the time. And please do come back and brief either in person or virtually whenever. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.